God has plans to prosper you, give you hope and a future too. So let me remind you of what you have the power to do.
You've been on a journey, trying to find your way. Like the sun, you're rising, 'cause today's your day to unlock every gift inside. Let your potential flow. Don't let anybody kill your vibe. Time to bust up and show. Gotta keep on reaching, keep believing. Act like you know you can win. Live your dreams, reach your goals. Be happy, you can make it. Get motivated with Cassandra Mack. We've got wellness, church by phone. You don't even have to leave your home to be inspired. To rise a little higher with Cassandra Mack. They said you'd never make it, but you're still here. Kept on pushing through all your doubts and fears. Never let a hater see you sweat. Remember who you are. When they go low, let them reap what they sow while you go far. Gotta keep on reaching, keep believing. Baby, shine like a star. You can win, live your dreams, reach your goals. Be happy, you can make it. Get motivated with Cassandra Mack. If you got haters, they gon' hate. Keep your head up and just be great. It's your season, your winning season with Cassandra Mack. Rise up, time to get on your grind. Go after your dreams, no time to fall behind. Push till the end and never give in. It's your winning season, get ready to win. Keep moving forward and never look back. It's time to get motivated with Cassandra Mack. You can win, live your dreams, reach your goals. Be happy, you can make it. Get motivated with Cassandra Mack. We've got wellness, church by phone. You don't even have to leave your home to be inspired. To rise a little higher with Cassandra Mack.
Welcome to the Cassandra Mack channel, a channel dedicated to providing biblical wisdom and upliftment to those who want to be part of this community. So you know this up front, comments that are divisive, disrespectful, or deliberately contrary to the teaching shared here will be deleted and the person will be blocked. Understand that I post as I'm led by the Lord. I do not post for anyone's approval or validation. Therefore, I will not be swayed by those who come in bad faith to troll or who come with a disruptive agenda. If you find that this channel doesn't align with you, that's perfectly okay. If you are offended by my rules, my directness, or my delivery, that's okay also. I encourage you to find the YouTube channel that's a better fit, since obviously we're not it. And if you choose to unsubscribe, no need to announce your departure. We are not the airlines. At any time, you can simply choose not to get on board. To everyone else, thank you for being here. Let's continue to grow together. God bless you. Have you ever had one of those moments where you just stop? You stop running yourself ragged, running yourself into the ground for other people, friends, family. You stop overextending yourself when you step back and notice that nobody really overextends themselves for you. You stop breaking your back, trying to do the most for people who wouldn't even lift a finger to dial the phone if you were in the hospital to make sure that you were good, to check if you were okay. And in that moment of reflection, you expect peace, right? Because you've stepped back, you stopped doing the most. You're focusing on your own goals, your dreams, your priorities, your life. You're focusing on the things that God would have you do in this season. And you're expecting peace. You're expecting relief. You're expecting to just do you. But instead you get that phone call. Why are you acting funny? Or you get around family and you get people acting funny with you because you're not as available to lend money or to be the one to pick up the tab or to be the one to constantly be available for everybody else's problems. And now people are saying that you're acting funny, you're acting cold, you're acting aloof, when in reality, you are simply practicing what we talked about in the last video, emotional self-preservation. And it's important to know that as a believer, do not allow yourself to be guilt-tripped, gaslit, or game played into believing that you don't have the right to guard your heart. The Bible says in Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for the issues of your life flow from it. That's how important it is. Above all else, you're supposed to prioritize taking care of your emotional well-being, because when your emotions are all over the place, when your emotions are intensely negative, when you are not doing well emotionally, it is hard to think clearly. It is hard to be creative. Sometimes it's hard to have a song in your soul of praise because you're feeling so beaten down or so anxious or so worthless. And sometimes you got to step back and kind of reflect and say, why do I feel this way? What's going on? You got to begin to pull back those layers. Sit with God in prayer, sit with God in silence, and begin to pull back those layers of why you're feeling that way. So many of you write into me because of this very issue. So I wanted to take the time to address it in a video today. Today's video is being brought to you by my book, The Soul Fast Workbook. This is a 40-day spiritual fast, different from a food fast where you fast from eating a particular food item or fast from eating if you're fasting intermittently. But this is a fast for your soul, where you're taking out 40 days to release negative thinking patterns, negative mindsets, negative emotions, very heavily overwhelming emotions, counterproductive choices, and even some of those negative people who are not equally yoked and aligned with you. I'll leave the workbook in the video description box for those who are interested in doing the workbook. And if you are doing the Soul Fast, because we're doing the Soul Fast as a community during this Lenten season, we do it every year during the season of Lent. And if you are doing the Soul Fast, how are you doing on the Soul Fast? I know for many, because this is the emotional component, right? We are in section 2 if you started on February 18th. And a lot of times when we do the emotional component, a lot of heavy emotions come up, and a lot of you have been, reaching out, talking about that a lot of things are coming up, and know that you can handle it. If God allows an emotion to come up in you, even if it feels really intense, you can handle it. It is God's way of allowing you to process that emotion with God so that you can begin to release it and heal the areas that need mending and tending. And so today, we're talking about why people who do the least for you, when you do the most for them, get upset when you stop doing the most. And we're talking about why that's not matching negative energy. It's simply responding to reality. And so people will try to make you believe that you are matching negative energy. And a lot of people will say, well, I match energy. No, I don't match energy. I remove myself from toxic energy. I don't want to match negative energy. I don't want to be in that space with you. Be miserable by your daggone self. Be evil by your daggone self. Be petty by your daggone self. Because you got things to do, right? You've got goals to achieve. You have dreams to pursue. You have priorities that need to be taken care of. You don't got time to be matching energy when you are moving forward, growing, glowing in the things of God. But you do need to be discerning enough to respond to reality so that you don't have your head in the sand concerning how people treat you, concerning when you're being used, whether it's emotionally, whether it is you're used as the person where everybody vents to you, but when you're going through it, it's crickets. You can't find nobody willing to stay on the phone with you for 10 minutes, but they will talk your ear off for 3 hours straight about their personal problems at 12 midnight, but you can't get 5 minutes on one occasion. And so we're going to look at the hard truth of one-sided relationships, the weight of one-sided relationships. where you're not really an appreciated full human being in that relationship. That's not how you're treated. You're treated like a resource. You're treated like a resource who's fulfilling a role rather than a full human being to be enjoyed. And only you know. And the reality is, we know when people are using us. We know when we're treated more as a resource, because the only time the phone rings is when people have need of you, as opposed to just checking to see how you're doing. Even if they call and the conversation starts with, hey, I just calling to check on you. You get that for every bit of 2 seconds, and then they go into all their problems. And so obviously they're not calling to check on you. They're calling to vent. And there's nothing wrong with that when it's mutual, right? The Bible says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. So there is nothing wrong with being there. That we're supposed to be there, right? But it can't be one-sided. And I'm going to give you some scriptures to really speak to that. And so you were playing a role a lot of times, right? And when you finally realized that I was a resource, I was a role to this person, but they don't really treat me like a friend if it's a friendship. They don't really treat me like family, because the only time my phone rings is when they have need of me. And so think about a vending machine. You put money in and you get a candy, a soda, whatever type of vending machine it is. You get something out of it. The machine works. You don't think about the machine's feelings. You don't wonder if the machine is tired. You just expect the soda or whatever is coming out. And for a long time, if you've been the person who has always been available, the go-to person for people you can never go to, you become that vending machine to them. You're the source of their emotional well-being. You were the source of their financial needs, their emotional needs. Whatever the need is, you were the source of their physical labor, or just being available to them whenever they need you, but they're never available for you. And they don't necessarily see you as a full person with your own needs, that you get tired, that you have needs. You need to be checked on. You need to know that you're loved. You need to know that you are cared for. But they see you based on the function you provide, and that's it. And it's one thing in a business relationship, because business relationships are transactional, but personal relationships are reciprocal, not transactional. So reciprocal means that you are both supposed to be getting something out of a relationship. It is not supposed to be one-sided, even in a personal relationship. And I'm going to give you the scripture. So business relationships, right, are transactional. You go to the supermarket, you give your money, you get your items. That's the transaction. The items in the supermarket for your money. But in your personal relationship, it is about iron sharpeners. So Proverbs 27:17 makes this very clear. So Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, a man should sharpen the countenance of his friend, meaning mankind, person. And so look at the analogy you're being given in Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron. So the analogy here is 2 iron blades sharpening one another, not one iron blade doing all the sharpening while the other iron blade receives all the benefits of growing sharper while never contributing to the sharpening of the other iron blade. And many of us have relationships that are not iron sharpening relationships. And we're talking about grown adults here, not your minor children, for purposes of clarity. And so when you are dealing with another full-grown adult, those relationships are supposed to be iron sharpening. You both contribute to one another's care, concern, consideration, and overall well-being, whatever the particulars look like in that relationship. But when you are doing all of the caring, all of the concern, all of the consideration, all of the meeting of the needs, at some point you're going to be burnt out. So when you decide to step back, there will be people who have benefited from you doing the most while they're doing the least. Why would they like that? And a lot of you are shocked and surprised. And you ask, well, why are they treating me funny? Why are they now saying that I'm so mean? Why are they talking about me, giving me the cold shoulder? Because they can no longer benefit off of you. You have to prepare for the pushback. That's human nature. So this is what happens, right? So when you bringing it back to the analogy of the vending machine, so you don't think about a vending machine in terms of having needs, right? Because it's a machine. But the difference with people, we are not machines. We are human beings with thoughts and feelings. And so think about what happens when a vending machine doesn't work, right? You don't generally ask if it's okay. You don't offer it a hug. You get annoyed. You might even kick it for your thing to come out. You might complain to the manager. Why? Because the machine is no longer serving your needs. And that is the dynamic we're talking about when people see you not as human, but as a vending machine. I call it the vending machine dynamic. And this is when people treat you like a vending machine. They make the phone call, equivalent in their mind to putting the money into the machine. So they make the phone call, send the text, and you are just supposed to give, 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 give. And when you stop giving, they kick you down in the spirit. They get annoyed. They complain about you to other people. Well, you so selfish. What? Are you kidding me? No, I'm just tired. And so you're not a machine. I'm not a machine. You are a person. And when you begin to decide that you're going to guard your heart, that you're going to close the hatch on the emotional, physical, or financial labor that you have been providing endlessly, the people who benefited from that labor, they don't see a person setting a boundary. They see a broken machine. Because when people see you as a resource only, rather than a fully embodied human being with needs and goals and hopes and dreams and feelings, they treat you like a machine. And it's important to realize that we are not called to have our heads in the sand. And this is where it gets tricky, because a lot of you get thrown off. You pull back expecting that you're just going to have peace. But you'll get that phone call that says, I noticed you seem distant. I noticed that you never return my calls, and you're thinking to yourself, because the only reason you call me is when you need something, when you need money, when you need a ride. You never, not one time, called to see how I was doing. Even if you use the words, I'm calling to see how you're doing, that lasts for every bit of 2 seconds. 2 seconds. And then you go right into yourself. If I would have set a timer, be like, okay, let's see how long this lasts, that I get to say how I'm doing before I get interrupted about 5 times. And if you struggle with people pleasing, these accusations may hurt. And so what usually happens is you don't get understanding. You might think you're going to get understanding. Like, couldn't they understand that I'm tired? Don't they see that they only come around when they need something from me, but they never once ask me how I'm doing, check to see if me and my kids are okay, or whatever your situation is. But what happens is oftentimes you're going to be met with hostility. Think about the machine. You mad at the machine because you can't get the item. They get cold. They get passive aggressive. They might even accuse you of changing, and you have changed. You're setting boundaries. They might accuse you of being selfish. You are not being selfish. You are being self-preserving. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. And if you, again, struggle with people pleasing, you may take their accusation to heart. They may even gaslight you and deny reality. Well, I've always been there for you. And you're like, when? No, you haven't. And you may begin to think, am I being mean? Am I a cold-hearted person? Or they may say, I know I wasn't always the best of friends, but, 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite one. When people don't want to be accountable. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And the thing is, you are not trying to be wrong and to be mean. You are protecting your heart from someone who disregards your heart. But they will have you believe that you are matching negative energy when they have exhausted all other reactions and nothing else is getting you to move. Then they'll say, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right, when they have no choice but to admit that they've been awful towards you and you've been good to them, that they've been extremely self-centered or selfish or cliquish with other people, but distant with you. And you're like, you know what? Why would I keep subjecting myself to these people? Know that you are not matching negative energy. You're responding to reality. Your eyes are open. You are using your discernment to see this is the reality, because we know people. How do we know people? Put it in the comments. We know people by their fruit, right? According to scripture, we know people by their fruit. And so when someone repeatedly shows you the fruit of indifference, the fruit of not being concerned about anything you got going on in your life, the fruit of selfishness and self-centeredness, the fruit of cliquishness, clique type of behavior within friend groups and within your family system. That's what it is. Matthew 7:16 says, you know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? And so a lot of times what's happening is a lot of people who struggle with people pleasing will keep looking to be fed from a place that's pricking at their joy, pricking at their self-respect, right? Look at the analogy it gives. The scripture says, do men gather grapes from thorns? The answer is no. You cannot gather a grape that will feed you from a thorn bush. It's impossible. But a lot of times, especially when it comes to family, because the expectation is family is love, but family is not about who you're related to by blood. Family is about who loves you and who's loyal. And so when you are of the mindset that because we're related by blood, I'm going to be fed here, but your experience, now look at the mindset versus the experience. So the mindset is, I'm going to get fed here. This is family. This is how it's supposed to be. But your lived experience for years has been, I'm not being fed. Actually, my joy is being pricked. My hopes and dreams are being pricked. My very personhood is being pricked by a thorn, by selfish behavior. But because my belief system wants to tell me that family is everything, when my lived experience that does not lie is showing me that that's not the case, then I got to respond to reality, not what I wish it could have, would have, should have been. And so do not allow yourself to be guilt-tripped because you have decided to shake the dust off your feet, even with your own family or certain family members. Here is the reality. What's happening, particularly from people who benefited from you doing the most while they did the least, is they are now being forced to reap what they have sown. And for the first time, the lack of effort they put into you is staring them in the face. And this is not you being mean. This is simply spiritual law in operation. You have no control over spiritual law. That is spiritual law in operation. And so Galatians 6:7 says, do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. As a man reapeth, so shall he sow, meaning mankind. And so you are not punishing anyone. You are not being a bad person. You are simply allowing the law of reciprocity and fruit bearing to fulfill its purpose. You have stopped sowing into barren land. They cannot continue to reap the fruits of your labor, whether it's emotional, physical, or financial, if they refuse to sow into your life. And I'm not even talking about sowing money. I'm talking about sowing kindness, sowing an occasional phone call to make sure you and your kids are alive, sowing consideration beyond performative photos for Instagram or Facebook or social media. See, they can't continue to reap the fruit of your labor if they refuse to sow into your life. And most people who are either in denial, not self-aware, or they know, but they don't want to be accountable, you're not going to get pleasantries from them. You're going to get hostility because they're no longer reaping whatever benefit came with your presence. And when you keep sowing into barren land, that is not spiritually or even naturally sustainable. Imagine that you keep planting seed in soil that is not healthy, And every year when you're expecting a harvest, there's no harvest because you're planting seed in soil that's not healthy. That is the definition of insanity after a while. Even Jesus cursed the fig tree. Even Jesus cursed the fig tree. And he did it in front of his disciples. Think about it. Jesus cursed the fig tree. He did it in front of his disciples. This is in the book of Matthew. You can read the whole story in Matthew 21. And what happened is that you can read it, Matthew 21, verses 18 to about 22, 23. And so the fig tree gives off the appearance of fruit from a distance. But when he inspects the tree up close and personal, there's no fruit. And so the tree had the appearance of fruit, but there was no fruit. And so he curses the fig tree in front of the disciples. And so he's actually teaching them by way of discipleship a lesson. And so a lot of you have relationships like that there's the appearance of fruit. Oh, we family. I love you, sis. I love you, brother. I love you, cousin. I love you, auntie, uncle, whoever the person is. And they say the words, love you, love you. But there's no fruit of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. There's no fruit of love. And so it's the appearance of fruit, but there's no fruit in it. It's still fruitless, regardless of how it appears. And so Jesus don't embrace the fruitless fig tree. He actually curses it. And so when you have relationships that are fruitless, you cannot keep trying to eat from something that doesn't produce, from something that's not producing any fruit. And so it is okay to preserve your well-being. Proverbs 4:23 again says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding your heart doesn't mean hating people. It simply means installing a door that keeps the negative out, but that also allows the good in. And the problem is people who are used to walking into the house of your heart, the house of your mind, the house of your finances, the house of everything that God has given you to steward, without any type of contribution to your life, they're not going to like that. So when you begin to install locks on your front door and you're like, you got to knock, people are not going to like that. Your heart is not a public park. It is a sacred space. And the fact that they are upset that they can no longer trespass doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means you finally are responding to reality. So what do you do when they get upset? You ain't got to argue. And they may say little sly things. Oh, you too good to come around. Oh, I guess you just think you all of that. They will rewrite history. They will tell their own narrative and make you the villain of the story. Get used to it. What you do is you simply hold the line concerning your boundaries. You don't need to explain yourself. We get so many comments. What do I do? There's no more discussion. Well, what do I do when they say I'm being mean? Oh, well. Oh, well. Oh, well. That's their opinion. You don't need to keep explaining yourself. You don't need to show them receipts of everything you've done for them. They know. They're choosing to be selfish, avoidant, and unaccountable. You don't need to defend your right to have peace. You don't need to defend your right to emotional well-being. You don't need to defend your right to have healthy, resilient, robust mental health. You don't need to defend your right to desire to want to be treated like a full human being and not solely a resource to be used and used and used and used until you have nothing left. You simply say with your actions, not your words. This is the done talking stage. I'm just responding to reality. You're not saying it with your words. Your actions say it. And the reality is, this relationship has been like the fruitless fig tree. You don't need to say this. This is what you're telling yourself in your mind. This reality has been a one-way street with a dead end. And I'm no longer accepting traffic that comes to a one end. If they want to be in your life, they got to learn that relationships are reciprocal. And if they choose to continue to just want to be selfish, then that's a choice they've made. That's a choice they've made. They got to sow into your field. You cannot be the only one sowing. Iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. And if they walk away because you stopped being a doormat, let them go. You didn't lose a friend. You didn't lose a family member. You lost serving a role that never suited you. You are not a role. You are a human being. You may play different roles, right? The role at your job, the role of mom, dad, but you are more than a role. You also have needs. You are a fully embodied human being with your own thoughts, your own needs, your own dreams, your own desires. And people will not like when you begin to exercise your personal sovereignty over your life. But that's okay. Because as I say to my son constantly, at the end of the day, when it's your time to go in the grave, no one is going to want to trade places with you and go in the grave for you. If you're sick where you got to go in the hospital, no one is going to want to say, I'd rather be hooked up to all of those cords so you could walk. Maybe your mom. Maybe your mom, maybe your dad. But very few people are going to want to trade places with you at the end of the day, because that's sobering. Sometimes we need sobering, stark realities, even though they're hard to hear, because that bottom lines it, and it frees you from allowing people to guilt you into believing, because you are exercising boundaries around your emotional labor, your finances, your time, your attention, your physical labor, your resources, that you are not a horrible person. You are learning to steward what God gave you. We're actually doing a Zoom workshop on April 18th, I believe is the day. It is a ticketed event, and it is called Discernment and Boundaries. How to learn to protect what God gave you to steward. And in this workshop, I'm going to walk you through the process of how do you set boundaries in a biblical, godly way. How do you begin to develop boundary scripts? What do you say when you get pushback for your boundaries? What's the language of boundaries? What are the actions of boundaries? You're going to learn all of that in the Discernment and Boundaries workshop. How do you know who to set boundaries with and what type of boundaries to set with them? We're going to be talking about all of that in the Discernment and Boundaries workshop. We're going to be talking about a model called the 5 levels of access. And the 5 levels of access is a proprietary model that I have developed that walks you through how to decide how much access to give somebody who belongs in the different parts of your life, from your inner circle to the different outer circles. And so we're going to be walking through that model. And even Jesus, when you look at his ministry on earth, everybody did not have the same level of access. There were the crowds and the multitudes, but then there were the disciples who walked with him. And so we're going to be looking at that as well for those of you who attend this workshop. And again, it's on April 18th. It'll come with a workbook. So you do get a digital workbook. It's an ebook. It's emailed to you. You can then download it, print it out. We'll be using that during the workshop. And you can also continue gleaning from that after the workshop. So I would go on and get a ticket so that you can, begin to glean from that workshop for those who really want to learn how to develop their boundaries. If you tend to be an oversharer, if you tend to be a people pleaser, and a lot of times when your voice has been stolen from you in childhood, when there's a lot of childhood trauma, when you were scapegoated, that affects your ability to set boundaries. That affects sometimes even the ability to discern when you have a trauma bond versus when you have a healthy relationship, whether that's friendship, whatever the type of relationship is. And so this is really going to give you some insights in the Discernment and Boundaries workshop. So I will go on ahead, get a ticket, Make the investment so that you can get these tools if you struggle in this area. If you're good, then you don't need the workshop. But for those who may struggle in this area, I would encourage you to get the ticket to the workshop. So with that being said, have an amazing day. Let's do our best to be kind, but never forget to take your common sense with you. God bless.